Hi, welcome back to Christ-Centered Conversations. Today we have another article spotlight. So this is an article I wrote about the saints, specifically like the early saints, people like Saint George, Saint Martha, saints that we don't really know so much about, or we know through more like through legends. I think these stories always fascinated me because my dad brought me up on comic books and superheroes and everything, and these saints seem to kind of somehow share like these kind of superpowers, like they could kill dragons or they could talk to animals. I think it kind of begs the question of, are these stories true? Because the time when these martyrs were said to have like lived and died was followed by what we call the Dark Ages, and people didn't write so much back then. And when they finally started recording these legends, like they obviously grew in the telling, right? So obviously there's a lot of things that have been exaggerated, and I think that's always a question for historians about whether like these saints were real, or like what was their importance to the early church in that sense. And if they weren't real, then like what does that imply for the church? Because it's kind of like unlike the Gospels, where like the Gospels were written about 30 years maybe after Jesus died, and Paul's letters even more so, even earlier. So it's not like that. It's like you have hundreds of years in between. And I think like I found a quote by Hilaire Belloc. His point basically was, if you tell stories about your friend, that means your friend is an interesting character who you enjoy telling people about, and like sometimes you exaggerate some details, but it captures something about your friend, right? Like a bit of his character, a bit of the kind of joy he brings to your life. So I thought that was quite an interesting way of looking at it, and in the sense that like as the Catholic Church, we are all like one family connected to the communion of saints. And maybe sometimes like we hear a bit exaggerated stories about our ancestors' exploits, but but that kind of adds a bit of color to things. Like, and maybe we'll find out the truth one day, but like I think the truth still remains that like we belong to this one big happy family. So I hope you enjoyed the article, and thank you for your time.